let's talk about what's going on over at Twitter with Elon trying to ban people's bios from including any other social media links. I think this is just saying the quiet part out loud for a lot of these social media platforms. At the end of the day, they want you to stay on their website. Pretty logical. They hate when you cross post. They hate when you share content across these platforms, because they want to continue building their walled gardens and making sure all the attention is continuing to be on them, because that's where they make money, right? If the more users that are on their site versus someone else's, they're going to get more advertising dollars. These are all essentially advertising agencies. So, in my opinion, really the solution here is owning your audience. There's no way around it. If you make your living off of these, off the internet, and you want to keep doing so, you have to own your audience. That's what the most successful people are doing, through and through, right? That's the through line. So let's get into it. My name's Amon. I help run Legacy.com. We run a gamified like fan engagement platform. You can think of it as a Patreon plus a Discord, kind of two in one. So yeah, let's get into it, right? So why you need to own your audience? It's the reason is pretty simple, right? Like we've seen time and time again, these platforms like YouTube, TikTok, IG, etc. They're great for getting exposure to your brand, right? Who you are, your content. They're excellent at this. They have amazing algorithms, great discovery. Maybe barring Twitch, let's strike that out. But like YouTube and TikTok, all these folks, they have amazing algorithms to surface your content to new eyeballs. Before, the only way to do that is if you were, if you're lucky enough to get a TV spot on like a late night show or a news channel or something. That's where you get most exposure. But now you can just do this sitting in your bedroom, from these social media tools. So that's been amazing. But like we said, these are all advertising platforms. Their number one goal is not to keep a content creator's audience alive and thriving. Their number one goal is to drive eyeballs on their website. So they'll make a deal with like Nike to do advertising on their YouTube videos. So they're going to apply this across all of their videos. So they need to make sure that they have the number one engagement spot. So how they do that is they're constantly A/B testing their algorithms. So what does this mean, right? So an A/B test is basically where you take algorithm A and then algorithm B, and you see very simply which one performs better. And when you have like millions and millions of users like YouTube does or TikTok does, it's very easy to quickly see mathematically which one performs better. Mathematically determine the main metric here is which algorithm delivers the content that users want to see more. That's the number one priority. It's not which algorithm is the fairest for content creators to make sure that they continue to keep their audience, or that the subscribers continue to see video from their favorite content creators. It's what does a user want to see, and that's going to be the core driving factor here. So with Elon specifically, and kind of what's going on with Twitter, is this just something that is unique to Twitter, or is this is there something deeper that's kind of like a truth about social media platforms? I think the answer is pretty clearly no. Right? It's not unique to Twitter. What I think is kind of driven Elon to make this change and had the team kind of disseminate this, I think they've walked it back since, but and that's probably more specific to Twitter, in that he just kind of overpaid for this social media thing, billions and billions of dollars. Most of his net worth is still kind of tied up in this thing. He's trying to drive revenue from it. I think that's kind of why Twitter's being more aggressive with the banning, but it's certainly not unique to Twitter. I mean, there's rumors. I mean, we can find Reddit threads about this, and I don't think it's a rumor. I think it's a fact. It's just the incentives are too aligned for this not to be true. But the idea is that like if you take a TikTok video, right, with that watermark on there and you share it on IG, for some reason that video never performs as well as native content. It doesn't perform as well on IG. And I think again the reason is simple, right? They see that IG, the TikTok content, they want native content. They want to be the place where people create videos and they get shared. Again, more eyeballs, more value creation for their advertisers. And it's certainly not unique to these social media tools that are more kind of like entertainment engagement focused. Let's pull up Google. Look at this. NFL matches here, right? Pretty simple Google search query. I don't need to go to ESPN. I don't need to go to the official NFL website. As soon as I type in NFL matches, I get all the match history. I see what's going on. I get access to, that's right, another Google platform, YouTube, and I'm right on here. I can see all the news in one spot. Read all my headlines. I can see my standings, all the divisions, all here. Want to dive into a player? See what's going on with Aaron Rodgers? Boom! I'm right here. Everything is surfaced to me at the top level. I can get most of my NFL needs and never leave Google.com. That's amazing for advertisers. All of this becomes more advertising spot and revenue for the platform. And obviously they don't want to link out to ESPN, even though that's kind of what they're built their back off of. They don't want that. They want you to stay here and get all the value on their top level domain, because that's going to drive more advertising dollars for them. Pretty simple. So definitely not something unique, right? So we can put that down here. Google is keeping folks at the search page. Yeah, so this is something that's running throughout the different platforms. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, look, if you're a content creator and you make a living off the internet, right? And if you think of yourself as a content creator doing digital art, you're a comedian, you're a musician or something, you have to keep your audience, right? So what does that mean? How do I know when I've kind of owned my audience per se? Really, there's kind of two main indicators here. So the number one thing is that you're reliably monetizing outside of social media channels, right? So if I'm a comedian, and I'd say comedians and musicians really understand this concept intuitively. Most of your money comes from ticket sales, merch sales, like subscription income, right? So from Patreon, from our platform, something like Ko-fi, that's where you make your money. If you're doing that reliably, you have owned your audience. You know, the thing here is like you can think of like you have Twitch stream revenue. Like Twitch stream is really kind of like there's no discovery happening on Twitch, but if you have a Twitch following, that means you have a pretty consistent way to monetize off of them. The other option is you have an email address, right, of all these folks. You have phone numbers. You have some way to like send a mass communication to these fans, whether that's like a Discord server, like we said, like a Twitch stream or something like that, where you can reliably talk to the audience without having a platform get in the way, right? So think of the difference between sending an @here on a Slack channel, right? Instantly you're notifying however many thousands of people are on there, like on a Discord, right? You're instantly notifying thousands and thousands of people of something, versus dropping a YouTube video with an announcement and then hoping that, let's say you have 100K subscribers, hoping that 100,000 people see that video, right? I think we all intuitively know that this is much harder to do versus this, right? Sending that same message out. So either of these two means you have owned your audience. And let's take a look at kind of like who I think really understand this concept intuitively and have historically understood this concept, which is comedians and musicians. Let's take a look specifically at comedians. How did a comedian make their money in the past? And actually, this has largely not changed over the course of since the 1950s. Back then, right? The same, let's say the high level strategy was, I'm going to get exposure. Okay. How do I do that? I'm a comic. I'm going to get exposure by landing a spot on a late night TV show, right? I'm going to get exposure by opening for a much bigger act, right? Maybe I'll get exposure by playing bigger and bigger shows, right? They'll just tour around the different comedy clubs, and hopefully I can work my way up that ladder do bigger and bigger comedy clubs until I get to like Vegas or something similar. Um, how I make my money is actually by doing those tours. Right, I'll make my money by selling DVDs after the show ends. I'll make my money selling merch after the show ends. So this formula has largely not changed. But how does that look today? I mean, of course, all these things stand. These are all things that never change. But in today's age, in the exposure branch, I can go ahead and add TikTok. Right, I can share my improv clips. I can share my sets and little like. Yeah, I can share a joke on TikTok and IG and get a lot of exposure and a lot of eyeballs. I can do that on YouTube as well, right? I can add different types of content where people are engaging with me and I'm getting more eyeballs from these platforms. But again, how I monetize, I'm not really monetizing off of the ads on TikTok. I mean, we know that this platform doesn't make any advertising money. And maybe I make some money on TikTok or on YouTube, but by and large, like that's kind of like more of a nice to have as a comedian. Where I make my money, and this is true for some of the biggest comedians, is actually unchanged. I make money off of tours. I'll make my money off of merch. DVDs maybe not so much, right? But you can think of this as like a Gumroad replacement where I'm going to sell a special as like a DVD or as like a digital collectible on like a Gumroad or a Shopify. So let's go ahead and look at a real example of somebody who's kind of practicing this today. Let's take a look at Sam. Samuel J. Comroe is a comedian who he's been touring for years now, so like decades. And yeah, his big break was on TV, right? America's Got Talent. But after America's Got Talent, that kind of gave him his initial wave of fans. After that, he's been going off, right? So if I look at let's open up all these links here. Let's see how things look across all these different channels. 427K followers on Facebook, because once Facebook introduced Reels, the same concept made sense. I have good content, I'll share it out and get these eyeballs from these different channels. So we got a bunch of content over here. Twitter, 38K followers. YouTube, 100K subscribers, right? Like 100K followers on here, and then he's got like 300 or so on TikTok. Again, the formula is, and you can see it here, get exposure on these social channels by posting engaging content, and then always constantly link back to your events page. Right? Tour dates over here. Let's look over here. Oh, not much on Twitter here. He's got to update that. Tour dates over here. It's across everywhere. The number one thing that he wants you to do is to buy a ticket, because that's how he makes his money. And he understands this formula really simply. Get your exposure on these platforms, sell tours, sell merch, right? Sell content. So we have the same thing here. It's like, yeah, you maybe don't have email addresses or phone numbers, but you definitely have an easy way to go out and reach out to these folks and make sure that they're monetizing outside of these platforms. So if any one of these platforms were to go down for Sam, Twitter deplatforms them, right? Or the YouTube algo stops pushing his content. Guess what? That revenue is not really being affected. It's not going to zero. It's not going to zero. So, we can see like that's you really need to drive to these two things in order to make sure that you're living your livelihood off of the internet is reliable, and you can actually like build a life around that, and honestly grow. But there is something really sobering here, is that Sam, across all his social media platforms, almost has like 1 million followers altogether, right? How many people are showing up to this Portland, Oregon show happening here? Right, so he's got 5 events, right, at the Helium Comedy Club. And let's say it seats like, 150, 200 folks. So he's got 5 nights, 200 folks per show, right? So you have 1,000 ticket buyers. This is the difference between owning your audience and kind of just, fooling yourself. If you have 1 million followers, that's great. Huge audience size, right? But your audience, the people really kind of providing for you, are these 1,000 folks. So obviously the more exposure you get, the higher you can drive your audience number. But it's just important to note, it's really sobering to note that your audience is usually much, much smaller. Your true audience, the ones that are following you across the social media platforms and actually converting to dollars, is much smaller than your follower count would kind of would imply. So just kind of wanted to go into here. I think like if anyone who is a content creator uh, wants to understand the space a little bit better, that's kind of what's going on. And especially if you want to look into building your audience, building a community, and fostering these folks, because we all know how to do this. There's tons of content around here. If you want to build this out more, I can recommend a ton of content around community building. Take a look at comedians, see what they do, see what musicians do. I mean, musicians get this also, right? Like musicians have been playing in this space for a long time. Like, if you think YouTube is bad, don't even get started with like a music label. I mean, everyone knows about the 360 deal and how predatory they are. Musicians understand the same concept. Like, you sign the deal with the devil, the music label, and you get all this exposure, right? But at a huge cost. Your music you don't own. So what you have to do is like use that music as basically like a bargaining chip to get that exposure and get the revenue from tours, from DVDs, right? I don't think people sell DVDs anymore, or musicians sell this anymore. But still, you want to get those tickets sold. You want to get that merch sold. And so the formula by and large remains the same. It's just when we got into the pure digital content creators that we kind of lost this formula. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. Again, check us out at legacy.com. We're really big on building up this kind of end of funnel for content creators, making sure that folks can make a living off of all the work they're putting in. Yeah, that's it.